Welcome back, folks, to the Ray program. I want my LTC music, or MTV, whatever it is. Lyn Rowe, certified financial planner, joining me. I think you picked that music.
You picked it, Ray, and it
Oh,
sounds like you playing, actually.
I wish. I want to talk to you about this, Lyn, because Ashlea Ebeling writes the common retirement assumptions that's flat wrong. You talk about retirement assumptions that are flat wrong all the time, but she has some hard evidence on a few of these. The one assumption is that, you know what, I think I'll be able to work in retirement, work longer so that I can afford my retirement. But what we have learned from the Employee Benefit Research Institute is, unfortunately, stuff happens. I know you're going to talk about stuff happening too, but here's what she determined, or they determined. The expected retirement age, 1991 versus 2015. Those that expected to retire before age 60, 19% in 91, 2015, 9%. I guess because they could. 60 to 64, 31% thought they would retire, down to 16%, cut in half. Why? Probably not enough money. Interest rates super low, despite the fact the stock market's super high. But remember, a lot of those people bailed out of the stock market the last couple of crashes. Age 65, the so-called normal retirement age for my parents' generation, 34%, but instead only 21% made it that far because they were forced into early retirement due to other considerations. 66 to 69, 2% versus 10%. A lot of people in 91 said, forget about retiring that late. Now people, many of them forced into retiring later if they're healthy enough to do so. And then 70 or older, 26% today versus 9% before. In other words, you make an assumption as to when you might want to hang up your cleats, so to speak, or your tennis outfit or whatever. I don't want to be sexist here. But the fact is, when you quit, retirement doesn't have a lot to do with how you feel about when you want to retire. It has a lot to do with not only your health, but family members' health. And as I said before the break, 22% of the individuals left work early to care for a spouse. That can take a big bite, Lyn, out of your retirement.
Absolutely, and this is everything we've been talking about for, years, right? People are making assumptions about the fact that they're going to be able to retire and have a certain amount of income from that retirement plan. They need to look in, as we talked about last week, they're 6 o'clock, which means they need to know about all of these unforeseen contingencies and kind of plan for those.
You know, it's very, very frustrating. It's exceptionally frustrating because we all, I think, know that healthcare is an issue. But so many of us are just afraid. We're afraid that to face the reality that it's going to happen to us. It's always the other guy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the president of American Association of Long-Term Care says that right now the average for men is about 1/2.
What do you mean the average for men?
Average men who need long-term care. So half of our listeners out there, half of the guys.
Males that are out there are going to need long-term care.
Are going to need long-term care in their lifetime.
So there's at least 2 or 3 or 4 men around here. So 2 of us are going, boys.
That's right.
Yeah. Well, that kind of makes sense. What about women?
And here's the point that you were making earlier. Guess in most cases, if they're at home, who takes care of them?
Yeah, that's the
That would be the wife.
The wife, yeah.
Yep. Which means, according to Fidelity, her life expectancy just got shortened because of the stress, the lack of sleep, the illnesses that come as a result of being that caregiver. But women, we're just in trouble. 3 out of 4 of us. 3 out of 4 of us are going to need care.
Is that because women just typically live longer and there's more opportunities for them to have some other kind of malady?
I'm sure that's part of it. I'm sure it's also in part because they were caregivers. And what we're seeing is that these caregivers have back injuries, they have joint injuries, they have depression, early Alzheimer's, I mean, basically, the stress is too much for them.
Talk show hosts have depression too.
Yes, that's true.
Listen, this is very, very serious. And when we talk about the costs, I mean, it scares people. The costs are frighteningly high.
Yeah.
So how do you get people to say, okay, I'm willing to take a bite of the apple because I know I can't afford the whole thing?
Well, Ray, I always try to get people to start with their budget first. Because if you go onto a car lot and say, what does a car cost? What are they going to show you?
The Ferrari.
They're going to show you the Ferrari. And they're not going to tell you about the Buick or the Ford in the back lot. That's perfectly fine, looks good, feels good, drives good, but they're just not going to sell you that right up front.
I'm not buying a Prius.
Yeah,
I
understand.
refuse.
I get
to
it.
buy a Prius. It's just,
That's a different lot.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I mean, you've got a tough job. You know you've got a really, really tough job because you got to come talk to guys like me that think nothing's ever going to happen to them.
No,
and
you're indestructible.
convince me to take some of my hard-earned money out of my wallet.
Yes.
And spend it every year on something that's not going to happen for 20 years.
Yep, I understand. But in 20 years, let's just talk about those costs because you brought up a good point. In Midland, Texas, it doesn't sound bad at all, right?
Have you been to Midland?
I have not been to Midland.
I've been there many, many times.
Wow. Well, you're one up on me. And in Midland, it's not so bad. It's only $80,000 a year.
It's not so bad. It's only $80,000 a year.
Well, I say that in comparison to San Francisco, that's $146,000 a year for skilled care.
So if you're in San Francisco, move to Midland, I guess is the point.
Not so fast, cowboy. In Midland, the average, and again, the last 5 years of inflation have been lower than we've seen in this generation. But for long-term care, not so much. 8% per year in Midland.
8% per year compounded inflation in Midland, Texas.
So if you take that little $80,000 a year and project it 20 years for all those 55-year-olds out there who are saying, I won't need it for 20 years, that's $373,000 a year.
For a year.
Is that going to take a huge bite out of it?
Just pull the plug.
Better yet, take a few dollars today and buy discounted dollars.
Okay, so what you're saying is take a few dollars today, but I want to focus on this because the complaints, not complaints, but the comments that I get from the peanut gallery, which are our audience, as you know, is yes, but I don't want to take a few grand a year out of my budget. So how do you convince them to do that? Because obviously I respond to these emails and I say, Lyn Rowe tells me you should buy long-term care. You talked me into doing it. It took a few years.
Jeannie talked you into doing it.
Well, that's true. You talked her into doing it. But how do you convince people to buy something they don't want to buy, even though intuitively they know they're going to need it? When we come back from the break, we will challenge Miss Lyn Rowe, certified financial planner, with that. You got a tough job, kiddo.
Hey, I'm up to the challenge.
All right. When we come back, it's Lyn, and she and I are going to debate this. She's going to have to sell me once again because it's been 8 years now, I think, 7 or 8 years since I bought mine, and nothing's happened to me.
That's right.
I guess that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
All right, 844-RACIO. If you have a question for Lyn, this may be one of the most important financial decisions you ever make, especially if you live in someplace like San Francisco. 844-729-7469. Emails at raylucia.com. Take a quick break. Be right back. Hey, welcome back, folks. The Ray Lucia Show, bringing you the best in money information every day. Make sure you tune in because if you miss a minute on this program, you may miss a lot. A special howdy to Bob in San Francisco, one of the big fans of the show. Hey there, Bob. We'll talk to Bob a little bit later. Thanks for tuning in, Bob. Every day for all of these years, God bless you. Lyn Rowe, my special guest who appears here every week. And I give you a lot of trouble on this subject because so many people just flat don't want to spend money on something that's so important as long-term care. Vacations are way more important, Christmas presents and all the other stuff that gets in the way, like life that gets in the way. So you got a tough job. Sell me.
Well, Ray, do you have any kind of emergency fund set aside?
Of course. Everybody's got an emergency fund.
What's it earning?
Nothing.
And have you used it recently?
Not in 40 years, 30 years.
Okay, then we can put that money to work. We can transfer that asset, keep it as a safe money account. We can put it into an account that will, say, quadruple if you need care. And if you pass, it comes back to the family, generally speaking, between 2 and 3 times what you put in.
Okay, that sounds pretty good. That's a pretty good sales pitch.
There you go.
What if I don't have an emergency fund?
Well, then we talk about budget.
All right, so you were mentioning like San Francisco, $130,000 for care, 146,000
Yes,
who's
sir.
counting,
Right now.
and it goes up at 6% a year or whatever that
Between
number
7
was.
and 9.
7 and 9%. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I know.
But that's what? That's skilled nursing.
That is skilled care. In all
Okay.
fairness, we are talking about skilled care, and 70% of the claims going into the insurance companies today are home care claims.
Okay, so I'm not as freaked out now because
Yes, it's
at
a
least
manageable risk.
at least I can be a burden on my wife and my house.
No, that would not be a good idea.
Okay, so explain to me about home care. Home care, you're probably talking $21 an hour
Yeah.
for somebody, right?
Yep.
So if you needed 8 hours of care a day,
Yep.
that's $160 a day.
Yeah.
That's a little more doable.
That's doable. Plus, there are plans where you can buy that home care discounted hours concept, and that home care, I mean, you can get it down to $100 a month if you want to.
What, the home care or the cost of buying the home care?
The cost of buying a package
The
of hours
insurance.
for home care. It's
Yeah,
not insurance,
so-
but it's a package
So
of hours.
you're telling me that individuals could at least take a bite out of this apple for $100 a month even.
Yes. Yes.
Obviously, they're not going to get, super coverage, but they're going to get something.
They're going to get something, and I did that for a couple here recently in San Diego for $100 a month for each of them, and they were thrilled.
All right, so then the question is, all right, how long do people really need this care? How long does it go on?
Well, according to the American Association of Long-Term Care Insurance, the rough stats are about 44% are in less than 1 year. 44% of the folks who need care are in less than 1 year.
All right, so you could end up getting a lot of your money back if you win for less than a year, but you're not likely to get it all back if you've been paying for the last 20 years.
Well, exactly. It depends on the plan that you bought, but yes, that's correct.
All right, so that's the risk. I guess the risk is you don't have an extended stay or any great need, but that might also lend some credibility to some of these life insurance policies with the long-term care riders that you've talked about, because everybody's going to die someday.
Yep.
So you're assured of getting all of your money back.
Right.
It's really just a question of when. So if you bought a life insurance policy that provided for long-term health care, and many of them have riders, can you explain that? Because a lot of people don't understand how that works.
Well, there are lots of ways to construct that, but basically what you said is exactly the way it is. You buy life insurance. The life insurance you can put in, again, that lump sum, or you can put in small amounts over a period of time, or you could have it paid up in, say, 10 years or so. So the bottom line is you could have that policy in place so that if you passed, something comes back to your family. You haven't just put a lot of money into long-term care. But at the same time, if you need the care is there.
Yeah, so
part of
the
the
way the life
package.
insurance policy would work then is it's an accelerated death benefit. You
That's
buy a
right.
policy for $200,000, that's the death benefit. And to the extent that you have some kind of a chronic illness or a critical care need,
Right.
you get to tap into the death benefit early. In other words, the insurance company knows they're going to pay out $200,000. It's just a question of when. They allow you to tap into the death benefit before you die, basically, right?
And oftentimes there's a rider on there that carries it beyond, say, the 2 years or whatever it is it took to pay out the death benefit. And with some companies, you can actually purchase a lifetime benefit.
Yeah, so it makes no sense for people not to at least explore this. So getting
Yes.
back to my biggest gripe and what I hear from the people that email me is, okay, I'm smart enough to figure this out.
Right.
I've read the statistics. Yes, I know the odds are against me, but I just refuse to take money that I've got earmarked for some other need, albeit you might consider that need minor. I need a new car, right? Well, just drive the old one, dude, and provide for your family. Let's face it, that just doesn't resonate anymore with the average American citizen. I hate to say that, but it's true.
Well, you've also talked about the fact, Ray, that for many people, they can take a look at the portfolio and they can make some adjustments and have a higher return, maybe 1% return difference, get some of that money put to work, and that might generate enough cash flow to be able to pay for the coverage without it coming out of their pocket.
Yeah, in my anecdotal experience anyway, I can tell you that in almost 100% of the cases, maybe not a full 1 percentage point, but you can cut fees, you can cut taxes, you can change asset allocation models, you can do a lot of different things, in particular in the tax planning area, that will generate free money to the investor. It just takes a little bit of time and a decent financial advisor to go through that with you, because all you need to really create, depending on how big a portfolio you have, is maybe 0.5%. A person that's got $500,000 in a portfolio, 0.5% is $2,500. That's enough to get you a nice bite out of a long-term care insurance policy.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that people don't understand is that I drive the train by the budget. Let's look at the budget. I mean, if it comes from the investments, great. If it comes from your current cash flow, if it comes because a car payment got paid off, if it comes because Social Security benefits are coming in, and with your pensions and so forth, you're thinking, well, we're not going to need to take money out of the portfolio, so we take only some of the return out. I mean, there's so many things that if you crunch the numbers, you can find the ways to pay for the coverage, and the coverage will protect the investments that you have. And not just for the kids. Sometimes I hear people say, well, you know, when I'm gone, the kids are going to be fine. I'm not as concerned about the kids as I am about your spouse. What's going to happen to him or her when you've used up a big part of that portfolio for your care?
Yeah, speaking of that, now I've become much more favorably disposed to reverse mortgages lately. In particular,
it's another great tool.
the line of credit reverse mortgages, where you just don't take all the money today, you get a line of credit. That credit line actually increases every single year, but you could tap into that line to pay for your long-term care insurance costs, could you not?
Absolutely. It's a great tool. We've used that many times when people, you know, they're looking at their cash flow in retirement and they're thinking it's going to be a little bit tight. Having a reverse mortgage can be a godsend.
So this
First of all, the house payment goes away if they had one.
Well, that's true.
And secondly, once the house payment is gone, like you say, you could have an income from it. So there's lots of things you can do.
Or you can just take that money out tax-free from the reverse mortgage to pay for the long-term care costs. Because if 70% of us are going to need some kind of long-term care, and we clearly can't afford it, you go to your kids and you say, kids, listen, this is your inheritance one way or the other, right? Because the kids are going to pay either way. So you can either take money out of your pocket now and provide care for me so you get the house, or we'll take out a reverse mortgage and buy a policy. Which one's going to be most effective to you? Well, most of the kids are going to say, hey, take the money out of the house, because if you took $4,000 out per year and you have a $300,000 or $400,000 house, the house is appreciating enough each year
Oftentimes
to usually offset a good chunk of that. So, you know, a lot of the things that have been taboo in the past are now on the table because the federal government's got involved. Nobody's losing their houses anymore because of a reverse mortgage. They're actually fairly competitive. You got to go jump through several hoops in order to get them. But we just found the money for you if you own a home. Either get rid of your mortgage payment by doing a reverse mortgage, or tap into a line of credit, which assuredly goes up every single year. So there's still going to be equity that you're creating beyond the payments for the long-term care insurance. This, to me, is a no-brainer. And don't you worry about your kids, all right? Don't worry about them. They want you to live a happy, healthy life. And if you get sick, they don't want to be the ones that are the caregivers. Trust me on that. They don't want to have to do it. They want to enjoy time with you, not the ugly times when they're cleaning up after you, but the good times where you have a smile on your face. Lyn Rowe, you taught me well, didn't you?
Oh, we're a team, Rick.
All right, we'll be back.